What about water features for birds?
Well, as a matter of fact, Sarah, the water feature is probably the #1 attractant for birds across the country. And there's a lot of different varieties that people can consider putting in their backyard. This is one that we have here at the Nature Center. It's a heavy concrete, typical bird bath, shallow water, so there's lots of areas for the birds to get in and access the water. We have a solar-powered aerator that, when the sun's out, keeps some movement in the water. Birds are very attracted to water by movement, and this is probably what everyone thinks of when they consider a bird bath.
What should you do if you can't manage a heavy bird bath like this?
Yeah, this can be tough for some people, especially if they live in a small piece of property. So another alternative is to have just a terracotta pot on the ground. The base of a planter works really well, even with a heavy brick in it, to keep it down. Birds that are on the ground quite a bit, like doves, will appreciate the water being down there. One thing you do want to consider if you add a water feature is to keep it clean. Have a simple scrub brush, scrub it out, because it will get mold, especially in the spring and summertime. A very diluted bleach solution to quickly scrub it out. Maintains really easily, and you'll be surprised at how many birds this will attract. And it will attract birds that you don't attract to your bird feeders, or migratory birds that aren't attracted to seed. We've had hawks visit this bird bath multiple times, so you can really, again, increase the diversity of birds and other wildlife on your property by adding a water feature. There's a variety of cavity nesting birds here in the Houston area. They look for natural tree cavities like this one that have been carved out by woodpeckers. But there's a lot of competition for these cavities from non-native birds like European starlings, other wildlife like squirrels and honeybees, so there's just not enough to go around. Luckily, a lot of our native birds have adapted to using man-made boxes. Chickadees, titmice, wrens, they happily will reside in a box similar to this. But every species of bird has specific dimensions of a box and a specific hole opening that they're looking for. So you really want to pick out a box that suits your backyard. If you have an open area, you can have a box for an eastern bluebird with open fields. If you're more urban backyard with a lot of vegetation, a Carolina chickadee nest box would be perfect. You also want to make sure you put it in a great location. A lot of birds are very specific about how high up they want their nest box and which direction it's placed. And all of that information and helpful tips are available on our website.
At Houston Audubon, we get a lot of questions about owl boxes. So today we have a special guest visitor along with Mary Ann to help us learn more.
This is Percy. He's an eastern screech owl. He's about 9 years old, and he was found with a very badly injured wing that was not repairable, so he is one of our education ambassadors. He's non-releasable like our other education raptors, and he helps us teach all around the Houston area. And he also represents the most common owl that we have here in the Houston area, the eastern screech owl. We have a few other species that can be seen, but not nearly as common as the eastern screech owl. These can be found in our city parks, in our backyards, and in our neighborhoods. And a lot of people like to attract them to their yards because they're fun to have around. They also eat a lot of pests like mice, roaches, insects, lizards, small birds, you name it, they go for it. And the easiest way to attract an eastern screech owl is by putting up a nest box like we have here at the Nature Center. The nest box, again, has to be a certain size, dimension, depth, and the hole opening has to be a certain size to attract an eastern screech owl. You don't have to put them very high up in the tree, usually 10 to 15 feet, so that's pretty easy for a lot of people to do in their own backyards. And you would want to put it out in the fall, right before the nesting season starts. I often say to people, put out several boxes if possible, because you might have a squirrel take up residence or honeybees. They really like the screech owl boxes. So putting up several boxes in the fall on your property, make sure that the area in front of the box is nice and clear, because the screech owls fly directly into the box. They don't sit on a perch. So you want to make sure there's no branches or vines in front of the box. And I know a lot of people have had great success putting out screech owl boxes on their property.